Hi guys and welcome back to SwitchUp. Today we have another Hidden Gems video as promised in our recent stream.
Yeah, as we said in the stream, the problem with the eShop these days is that it's so cluttered. A lot of these games get overlooked before they've even been released or very soon after they've been released. So hopefully we'll highlight a couple of games here that will interest you.
Lovely job. Right, let's get straight into it. Okay, so my first game is a game called Dagger Hood that was released about a week ago onto the eShop and is a very low price indeed. I think it's about £4, Glen, something like that. Now this is essentially a Celeste Light. There are a series of small stages that you have to work your way through, collecting 5 different pieces of treasure, and there's a little fairy that disappears after about 20 seconds of play. It's a game that you can play the same levels over and over again, and there are hundreds of levels to work your way through. I think there's 5 worlds and about 100 different levels, as well as 5 boss fights. Very fun game and a really good price.
Good stuff. Right, my first one then is a game called Wild Guns Reloaded, which came out a little while ago now. It is a game that was originally on the Super Nintendo, and this is a remastered version. It's got that beautiful sprite or pixel work in terms of the graphics. It has a co-op mode, which Mark and I have had a go on and had a lot of fun with. It has 2 new characters for this particular version over the original Super Nintendo game. The Super Nintendo original goes for a lot of money these days if you're a collector, so if you want to play the game, this is probably the best way to do it these days.
The next game is called Necrofear, and it's a 2-button Metroidvania. I wasn't expecting a great deal from it. Initially I thought, okay, here we go, another 2D pixel art game on the Nintendo Switch that I'm going to get bored of in 5 seconds flat. But I was wrong. The level design is incredible. For 2 buttons, there are actually far more similarities to a game like Super Meat Boy than, well, most Metroidvania games I've played. There's some really excellent ideas, and as I say, the level design is great. One addition I would say is that the audio is really on point with this game. Just check this out.
Yeah, that was a fun little game, that actually. I enjoyed that. Right, my next pick then is Pang Adventures. Now this again is based on an old arcade game, and this is so much fun. I did a review of this one, so have a look at that if you want to. Mark and I have played a fair bit of this in co-op, and I think we got to 3rd in the world in the 2-player category. This is a game that has aged remarkably well and is so much fun. Again, it's about £8 or $9 and well worth having a look at.
Yeah, he's not wrong. That game is incredibly addictive. We had a good time playing that one. I think Wolf got to #1 in the world or something. Man. My next hidden gem is a top-down adventure called Ellie, or Eli. For the sake of this, I'm going to call it Ellie. And it's a top-down adventure game, which is entirely set on the birthday of the main character. The villain shows up, steals all of the magical orbs, and runs away. There's nothing overly unique about the story here, but for an indie title, it really does have lovely design. Now, if you've watched the channel for more than 5 minutes, you'll know that I'm really a fan of high graphic games, and there's some lovely little visual tweaks in this one. I really enjoyed the overall colourful aesthetic of it, the audio and sound's good, and the level design as mentioned. This is an action platform game with a few puzzle elements to keep you interested along the way.
Okay, my next game then is one called State of Mind. Now, I did review this, and to be fair, it scored in the high 60s, which I know doesn't scream hidden gem, but what let it down was the lack of gameplay. There's a lot of walking around talking to people, but what stuck in my mind afterwards was just how good the story was. It's a cyberpunk game, it's a fantastic story once you get into it, and it's got a great ending. It's the sort of game that the numbers in the review don't necessarily do the game justice, if that makes sense. I enjoyed it much more than the score would have you believe. You can get it physically from Germany. I think it only got a physical release in Germany if you are a collector. Otherwise it goes for about £25, $30. Maybe wait for a sale, but definitely consider it at least.
I remember when Glen got that and it had a really nice Blade Runner aesthetic to it. I enjoyed the visuals in that one a lot actually. This next game is going to appease people like me who are weeping inside that Square Enix lost the source code to Final Fantasy VIII. It's Legrand Legacy. I actually completed about 80% of my review gameplay for this one and hit a game-breaking bug that I then had to tell the developers about, who patched it up before launch, but when I went back it was never fixed for me until I started the whole game again. Now I know that's not the most shining review, but actually if you are a fan of those 90s Final Fantasy style games, specifically the ones with the more realistic, in air quotes, character models, Legrand Legacy does everything right. The music is on point, there's some great boss fights. You will have the slightly random encounters, but most enemies can be dodged or avoided entirely if that's the way you prefer to play.
Lovely. Right, my next pick then is R-Type Dimensions X. Again, I suppose it's not a hidden gem. I'm sure lots of people have heard of R-Type, but because the way the eShop works and the way that games drop all at once, it probably got buried before anyone even realised it was out. So this is a collection of the first two R-Type games. You have them in their original form or with new updated 3D graphics. There's the original game mode in terms of you die and you start again, or there's an infinite mode where you keep respawning and you can just keep going for a high score. I really like this edition because of the tweaks they've made to the gameplay, and it also has 2-player co-op as well.
Tough game that. I had a little go, didn't I, and got absolutely destroyed. My word. I'll stick with I'll stick with Just Dance. Alright, Glen. Less of that. My next game is called 2064 Read-Only Memories Integral, and this is essentially the ultimate edition of this award-winning cyberpunk adventure game. For those who don't know, I'm a PC gamer at heart, and I grew up playing all of those white label games, the Space Quest, the King's Quest, all of those adventure titles, and this game, as I said, is a cyberpunk adventure. It has a few famous voices to the credit, including Jim from the Jimquisition, but overall it just has a very retro, but at the same time quite modern take on the adventure game. I didn't get to complete this one, but I would definitely put it in my hidden gems for people that enjoy an adventure and a slightly slower paced game.
Okay, I'm going to name a couple of games next that released at the same time from the same company, and that was Digerati, and that is Oniken and Odalus. These are old school, retro styled platform games. Both are fairly cheap, again about £9, $10. One being Oniken has a Ninja Gaiden vibe to it, set in a dystopian future. Odalus has more of a Castlevania feel to it, bit of a Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest feel in terms of collecting items, and the levels are not quite as linear as in Oniken. Both very, very good games for very different reasons, to the point where it's worth checking both of them out.
All of our subscribers are constantly saying the next time you do one of these lists, make sure you get Iconoclasts in there. I'm going to read you the blurb. Apparently, it's got hours of nut-twisting platform action adventuring, 20 plus boss fights, there's 3 game difficulty modes, a ton of different detailed locations, and actually, thinking about it, we did play a little bit of this one, didn't we? And a decent enough story to tie the whole package together. Overall, for the small amount that I've played, it was a very well made game, and one that comes highly recommended from most people who've played it.
Yeah, I think we played about an hour of that, didn't we? And you could see why people would recommend it from the little we played. Right, my final pick then is the Rune collection. This is a collection, as you would expect, of 4 Rune games, and these play very similarly to the old top-down Zelda games, but more so the old Ys games, in that you don't fight enemies as such, you walk into them, and if you are of a higher level than them, then you defeat them. They're adventure games. Again, they have that pixel art style, but it's used very well and looks very appealing. If you're into those old adventure games, such as Zelda or Ys, then you could do a lot worse than giving this one a go.
Okay, so there you have it. There's another Hidden Gems video for you guys. Make sure you check these out if you're looking through the eShop, which is a bit of a mess, and just trying to find maybe one of the games in the categories that we've talked about. Thanks as always to all of you who've subscribed to the channel, to all of the Patreons, and for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, and the best part of doing these videos, especially the Hidden Gems ones, is reading the comments afterwards to see which games you would recommend. So please do put your Hidden Gems in the comments section below. Thank you as always for watching, and until next time, happy gaming.
See ya!